Nancy Pelosi visits a hair salon against her own state's orders. President Trump visits my hometown and offers a message that's received well by some and not by others. Axios admits that there may be some sort of funky stuff going on in the upcoming election as we see what's going on around over there, and California passes laws that may make kitty diddling a new wonderful thing in California. I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. All right, we might have to come back and start this show over here because I hit the audio off just for a second to clear my throat in the title card. So, before we get started, head on over to freedomscoop.com. Freedomscoop.com is going to be your one-stop shop for all of your news and commentary needs. We carry the Generational Gap, the Daily Ignoramus. We also carry the Freckles and Brit Show, the R-Rated Conservative, and the Breakdown with Birkenhoff. So come over and check us out over there. Make sure you check out the Generational Gap on their new night for their Shooting the Shit episode on Wednesday night instead of their regular Monday night. And that will be a new schedule change for them. So come on over and check them out. Check us out, pick up some of our swag, and help us support great creators. Thank you, Dabba, for pointing out the fact that I clicked off the microphone to clear my throat in the title card and never clicked it back on. Alright, we are going to read once again, and I'm going to edit this out for the audio platform coming up here, from Investors Business Daily. Dow Jones Futures jumped 200 points, 4 hot stocks fuel stock market rally. Tesla to sell $5 billion worth of stock. From Scott Latonin, Dow Jones Futures jumped 200 points early Wednesday, while S&P 500 futures and NASDAQ 100 futures were also sharply higher after Tuesday's tech-driven stock market rally. Stock market leaders Apple, Netflix, Shopify, and Zoom Video fueled the NASDAQ to record highs, but Tesla skidded on plans to sell $5 billion worth of stock. The tech-heavy NASDAQ climbed 1.4% to hit another all-time high on Tuesday. The S&P 500 rallied 0.75%. Hitting a record high, while the Dow Jones Industrial Average gained 0.8%, or 215 points, aided by a 6.3% surge in shares of Walmart. Walmart will launch its Walmart Plus membership program on September 15th. And just like I said the first time I read this, that's what I think of Walmart right there, folks. Alright, let's keep going here. Stock market leaders Apple, Netflix, Shopify, and Zoom Video were big winners on Tuesday. Apple, Netflix, and Shopify are IBD leaderboard stocks. Tesla hit more record highs Tuesday before reversing 4.7% lower after the company said it plans to sell $5 billion worth of stock. Top stocks in or near buy zones include Atlassian, Team, Autodesk. Just a little bit of seasonal allergies, folks. Nothing to worry about here. No coronavirus coming on here. And Netflix. Early Tuesday, the Dow Jones Futures gained 0.6% versus fair value, while S&P 500 futures rose 0.7%. NASDAQ 100 futures advanced 1.2% versus fair value. Remember, overnight action in Dow Jones and futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. So it looks like things are looking up here, and Tesla's looking to throw a bunch of stock out there, and people are going to buy it. The price is going to go up. They'll be just fine. They started off lower, but everybody wants to have Tesla stock. They think that's going to be the future of automobiles. I don't think that it's going to be quite the future that people believe it's going to be just yet, but somewhere down the road, it is going to be the future of automobiles. So we will keep an eye on that as we go along. And I want to thank Dabba once again for pointing out the fact that I forgot to click my microphone back on and got all the way through this article as far as I was going to read before I realized it. So that's why I keep the live chat up here, folks, to keep me honest and to look for tech issues. All right, I've got another one here from CNBC. Dow futures jumped 200 points, building on Wall Street's strong start to September, from Jesse Pound. U.S. stock futures jumped early Wednesday, continuing a strong start to September for the market. Dow Jones Industrial Average futures indicated a rise of 200 points in the open. S&P 500 futures gained 0.7%. NASDAQ 100 futures rose 1%. Excuse me. Apple was higher by 2% in pre-market trading. The shares gained 4% on Monday, the first day of trading, following a 4-for-1 stock split. The major U.S. indices all rose during Tuesday's regular session, with the Dow Jones Industrial Average and the NASDAQ Composite closing at record highs. The S&P 500 rose 0.75%, which was its best first trading day of September since 2010, according to Bespoke Investment Group. Tuesday's rally came after a banner month for the markets, the Dow and S&P 500 both rising at least 7% to notch their best August in more than 30 years. The NASDAQ outperformed both of them, gaining 9.59% for the month. Morgan Stanley chief U.S. equity strategist Mike Wilson said on Closing Bell that he was still optimistic about the market long term, but that the weakness in the weeks ahead was on the table after such a strong rally. I remain very constructive over the next 12 months, Mike Wilson said. I think we're a little bit overcooked. It's impossible to try to time some types of corrections, Wilson said. It would not surprise me if we got a 10% correction, but it wouldn't be surprising if we didn't either. We're in a bull market. In Washington, congressional leaders appear to be far apart in negotiations for another relief package, but the Trump administration announced on Tuesday evening that the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention would invoke the authority to halt evictions through the end of the year. The move in futures also followed conflicting news in the fight against coronavirus, with Swiss pharmaceutical firm Roche announcing that it would launch a new rapid antigen test in Europe by the end of the month. The company said it would apply for an emergency use authorization from the US FDA, so they want to get out there and make sure that they know who has had this disease and who hasn't because of all the asymptomatic cases that are out there, leading us to still believe that this has a very high death rate. And there are still people out there that believe that 185,000 is the number, even though it was pointed out that most everything else was a comorbidity. I saw some people laughing on Twitter about this. People were saying, well, all those people didn't die on September 11th. They died from comorbidities, not terrorism. No, that's not how this works. Somebody flew an airplane into a building, and that's what took out all those poor people in that building. Directly caused. Now, yes, people were dying with coronavirus, but they were dying from things like a head injury from a motorcycle crash, or cancer, or a slew of other things that went along with the fact that they had the coronavirus. But they did have to pump those numbers up to get some of the things out there and to get some of the money that was coming from saying, oh, well, I had X amount of coronavirus deaths in my hospital. Follow the money and follow the bouncing ball. Sorry about that. 1 second. Sorry, just a little bit of that lingering allergy sitting in the back of my throat there, and the allergy pill hasn't quite kicked in yet, so we will probably clear up right about this point in the stack here. But speaking of the stack here, we still got a bunch to get through, and I wasted a bunch of time not having the audio on here, so let's keep going. Top story today. Pelosi used shuttered San Francisco hair salon for blowout. Owner calls it a slap in the face. From Brooke Singman. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi visited a San Francisco hair salon on Monday afternoon for a wash and a blowout. Despite local ordinances keeping salons closed amid the coronavirus pandemic, Fox News has learned. In security footage obtained by Fox News and time-stamped Monday at 3:08 p.m. Pacific Time, the California powerhouse is seen walking through E-Salon in San Francisco with wet hair and without a mask over her mouth or nose. Well, I mean, to be fair, it's just her and the stylist in the building. I'm not trying to make an excuse for Mrs. Pelosi, but there are some other factors involved in that, and there are other factors involved above that that people were talking about when I discovered this story that we should maybe talk about as well. The stylist doing her hair can be seen following her wearing a black face mask. Salons in San Francisco had been closed since March, and were only notified they could reopen on September 1st for outdoor hairstyling services only. Salon owner Erica Kios, in a phone interview with Fox News on Tuesday, shared details of Pelosi's visit. Kios explained that she has independent stylists working for her who rent chairs in her salon. One of the stylists, who rents a chair from me, contacted me Sunday night, Kios said. A screen grab of the text message she received from one of the stylists and obtained by Fox News said, "I'll be there at 2:45 tomorrow. Pelosi assistant just messaged me to do her hair." Kios replied, Pelosi. And there's the picture of the text message. I was like, are you kidding me right now? Do I let this happen? What do I do? Kios told Fox News, while noting that she can't control what her stylists do if they rent chairs from her as long as they're not paying at this time. Or as, rather, they're not paying at this time. Kios cast Pelosi's visit as a double standard. It was a slap in the face that she went in, that she feels that she can just go and get her stuff done. Well, no one else can go in. I can't work, Kios told Fox News. That she can't believe the speaker didn't have a mask on. From the footage, it appears Pelosi had some kind of covering around her neck. We're supposed to look up to this woman, right? Kios said. It's just disturbing. Well, that's the first part of your problem right there, is we're supposed to look up to this woman. No, that woman works for you, so you're not supposed to look up to this woman. So that's what we're seeing up off of this here. There's some questions that go along with this as well. Some very important questions to think about as we talk about what's happening and everything else that goes along with this. First and foremost, as we look into this and see what's going on, one of the big questions that came up is, should it be allowed to record Nancy Pelosi walking through the shop? And the security camera question comes up. With two-party consent state laws, and California, as far as I know, is a two-party consent state. Now, as draconian as two-party consent laws are enforced, that's a question that we actually should be asking. But first and foremost, off of everything else, one of the things that we need to look at is the fact of, this is rules for me and not for thee. Why should Pelosi be able to go in and do? And it's the same thing with Lightfoot and the fact that she went out and got her hair cut at the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic because, hey, I got to appear on camera, so I got to look good. Well, she failed at that anyway, but I'm more concerned about her policy than the way that she looks. So, yeah, no, this is definitely something to keep an eye on here. And, yeah, you shouldn't be able to just go above and beyond if you're a senator. Or, I'm sorry, a representative. She's not even a senator, a representative in this state, but hey, what can I do? They're supposed to be leaders, right? Not public servants. They're not supposed to be the people that work for us. That we are supposed to work and bow to them. So that was something interesting to see as we go along. And let's keep going off of this. Going back into my hometown here from Fox 6 Milwaukee in Kenosha, President Trump calls violence domestic terror, anti-American, from Jason Kelvey and Bill Miston. This is a local Fox affiliate. President Trump stood at the epicenter of the latest eruption over racial injustice Tuesday and came down squarely on the side of law enforcement, blaming domestic terror for the violence in Kenosha, Wisconsin, and making no nod to the underlying cause of anger and protest, the shooting of yet another black man by violence. Really? Really? Trump declared the violence anti-American. He did not mention Jacob Blake, who was left paralyzed after being shot in the back 7 times by an officer last week in Kenosha. Soon after arriving in the city, a visit made over the objections of state and local leaders, Trump toured the charred remains of a block besieged by violence and fire. With the scent of smoke still in the air, he spoke to the owners of the century-old store that had been destroyed and continued to link the violence to Democrats, blaming those in charge of Kenosha and Wisconsin while raising apocalyptic warnings if their party should capture the White House. These are not acts of peaceful protest, but really domestic terror, said Trump, and he condemned Democratic officials for not immediately accepting his offer of federal enforcement assistance, claiming they just don't want us to come. The city has been the scene of protests since August 23rd shooting of Blake, who was shot as he tried to get into a car. Fact check false. He actually tried to reach into a car, but nice try, while police were trying to arrest him. Protests have been concentrated in a small area of Kenosha. While there were more than 30 fires set in the first 3 nights, the situation has calmed since then. More than 170 arrests have been made. More than 100 of those people, police said, had listed addresses outside of Kenosha. So, yeah, and he was there, and everybody got pissed about the fact that he was there. First and foremost, he reached out immediately to Blake's family. He attempted to go and visit with them, but they wanted to have a lawyer present when he visited with them. And I don't necessarily feel that that's completely appropriate. So, yeah, I could understand why he didn't want to mention this here. And I do think that he's wrong to a certain extent as we look into this as well. Now, he says that this will be happening all across the country if the Democrats retake the White House. And I don't think that's true. See, I'm pretty positive that had Biden, or Hillary even for that matter, been the one to offer the National Guard, Evers would be tripping over himself trying to get them there quicker, doing everything that he could, blocking the roadways to get the National Guard in from out of state even quicker, to get the federal troops in even faster. What we're seeing here is terrorism. The fact that the state leaders would hold their state constituents hostage to try and get a certain outcome in November for the federal presidential election. That they will sit there and burn their cities down and say, hey, that's a nice business you have there. It'd be a shame if something happened to it if your people didn't vote my way. It'd be a shame if we lost all this going off here. Because they're saying the violence will continue if Trump is elected president. I don't know. I don't like any of this at all. The fact that people are burning down their own homes, their own hometowns, and their own businesses just to try and get a certain outcome coming up in an election. I don't like any of this at all. But that's what we're going to see up off of this here. A lot of people were mad about everything that happened with this. And for the most part, there are a lot of people out there that won't be satisfied with anything that the president does. He can't console people hard enough. And that's something that we do need to address in our society. All right, let's keep going here. Excuse me. From NBC News, Trump's Kenosha visit produces outrage for some in the city and calm for others. Trump has an agenda, said Jacob Blake's uncle, but we have one too. And that's going to be the political aspect of it. We are going to trash everything until you give us our way. This is a temper tantrum. I'm going to read from this in just a second, but I'm going to do something I rarely do. Never mind, because I don't have a napkin or anything up here. All right, I guess we're just going to power through. I was going to click the camera off and blow my nose here quick, but yeah, I've got nothing here to blow my nose with, so we're just going to power through, I guess, and hope the allergy medicine kicks in quickly. From Janelle Ross, Kenosha, Wisconsin, President Donald Trump's visit to Kenosha Tuesday was supposed to be non-political, but it resembled a Trump campaign stop replete with protest signs, MAGA gear, and glimpses of various anti-government and white nationalist symbols. Oh, Jesus fucking Christ. Oh, Jesus. Many who live here said that Trump seemed interested only in making his own points, not in listening to their concerns, while others described Trump's visit as an affirmation of the social order. A true leader, the best leaders, are always the best listeners, said the Reverend Murray Wilson, an associate pastor at Second Baptist Church, one of Kenosha's predominantly black congregations. Listening is one of the great strengths of a leader, and what our president demonstrated by coming here today was not that. After days of protest and sporadic violence in Kenosha following the shooting of Jacob Blake by a police officer, leaving Blake paralyzed, Trump announced a trip to the city of nearly 100,000 to meet with law enforcement officials and tour the damage from recent disturbances. The visit, Trump said before his arrival, would increase enthusiasm and could increase the love and respect for our country. However, Wisconsin's governor and lieutenant governor, the mayor of Kenosha, and the city's NAACP branch president asked Trump not to come because it would only inflame tensions. On Tuesday afternoon, Trump arrived anyway, prompting Reverend Wilson's criticism that Trump is failing to lead by listening. I do think that some of this is political coming from those as well, because, Biden's not coming. Biden's not coming in and showing up. He's going to Pennsylvania throughout all of this. Not coming down to Kenosha and see what's all coming off of there. And I'm sure if Biden came in, they would be praising him, saying, please, please, Mr. Biden, come in and sit. That's one thing that you have to look at every political aspect of everything, is switch the political party and see if you feel the same way. And that's something that I've been trying to do since the beginning of the Trump presidency, looking at everything that's thrown at him and everything that I feel about him, and saying to myself, how would I feel if Barack Obama did this, or Hillary Clinton did this, or Joe Biden did this? But I don't think these people, especially like this reverend here and the Kenosha mayor and everybody else, have the ability to look inside themselves and figure out how they would feel about something like this. If this was Hillary or Biden or anybody else in the world that this could have been. Not that this would have ever got to this point in the first place. So that's what we're seeing up off of Kenosha. I am going to be right back with you guys. I will be just a second. Alright, sorry about that. Hopefully, that's the only time in the run of contemporary that we do, for as long as I'm willing to do contemporary, that we ever have to do that. But I couldn't breathe and talk around that anymore. Sorry. Alright, so that's what we're seeing up out of Kenosha here. Let's keep going. From the Daily Wire, AG Barr, Feds National Guard were ready to go into Kenosha immediately after police shooting. Extremists came from out of town. From Daily Wire News. Attorney General William Barr said on Monday that the majority of the extremists that attacked Kenosha, Wisconsin last week were from out of town, and that the federal government immediately prepared to assist local officials following the officer-involved shooting that sparked the riots. When the shooting occurred here in Kenosha, under the direction of the president, we told the DoD, the Defense Department, to get ready some National Guard units in case they were needed to help here, and from several states volunteered to supply the National Guard if they were needed, Barr said. And the president directed me to assemble a group of federal law enforcement officers that could be dispatched here when we did, and stage them into Chicago. And we were picking up information that these violent instigators were coming to Kenosha. They were coming from California, Washington State, a lot from Chicago, and they were coming up to Kenosha. So we expected matters to get worse. Barr said that the attack was a coordinated attack on law enforcement, on public property, and on private property. Those are the same people, many of them who came from out of town, Barr said. Out of 175 arrests, 100 were from out of town, and these are the same people using the same tactics that have been used in various cities. Washington, D.C., Atlanta, Chicago, and now Kenosha, Portland, and they use those black bloc tactics, throwing projectiles at police and literally trying to inflict injuries on police, arson, and rioting. They came equipped, as even the mayor of Washington acknowledged. They come equipped to fight, Barr added, and it's completely unacceptable, and the state is the first line of defense. If local leaders are committed to keeping the public safe, it can be done. And yeah, we saw a lot of that as well. Like you said, 102 people out of the 175 were from up out of town. Now, I will offer favor to those people who came from out of town that were close by, like Rittenhouse, who worked in Kenosha, who still would consider that their community. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to think the fact that the people that are coming in from Washington, unless they were going to Carthage or Parkside, could be coming in because it's part of their community. That's thousands of miles away. And a lot of people outside of Kenosha have never heard of Parkside. Carthage maybe, but not Parkside. So that's what, yeah. They were ready to come in and help because they knew that other people were ready to come in and hurt. It's sad that we have to have a federal war zone in the middle of a local city, instead of just letting the locals deal with it and take care of everything. But yeah, that's what we're seeing up out of this. some of this, I don't want to throw the tinfoil out right now, but some of this does feel like it's coordinated and there is stuff coming down from the top. I know I saw the Antifa headquarters trending yesterday, people making fun of Rand Paul, saying that we need to go and check out Antifa headquarters, saying, oh, there is no such thing as Antifa headquarters. Well, somebody is coordinating this. I don't know who, I don't know how, but this is more than just people getting in a car and coming to their mecca of wherever the hell violence is. This is more than that. And there does need to be some sort of look into what's going on with that. So, that's what we see off of here. Let's keep going. Portland protesters target city's mayor amid rising tensions. Speaking of more things going on along here, Black Lives Matter protesters in Portland, Oregon shifted their focus to the city's mayor, and police declared a riot as people broke out windows, vandalized a business, and set a small fire inside the upscale apartment building where Mayor Ted Wheeler lives. The demonstration that began late Monday and extended on to Tuesday fell on Wheeler's 58th birthday and featured a shiny golden alphabet balloons that protesters used to spell out an expletive. That's actually kind of funny, I'm not going to lie. That's actually kind of funny. I like that. They sang in the streets outside the mayor's building, some wearing party hats, and the fire was set with a bundle of newspapers in a store housed on the ground floor of Wheeler's building. There were no reports of major damage or injuries. Wheeler, who is also a police commissioner, has come under fire for his failure to bring the violence against Oregon's largest city under control and for heading up a police force that has used tear gas multiple times against demonstrators. Some also blamed the mayor for engaging in a war of words with President Trump instead of focusing on local needs. Trump has put Portland and other Democrat-led cities in the crosshairs of a law and order re-election campaign theme, a move that's escalated tensions in the city and drawn the attention of right-wing Trump supporters. A supporter of the right-wing group Patriot Prayer was killed Saturday during clashes between dueling protesters. A caravan of Trump supporters, estimated about 600 cars, encountered Black Lives Matter protesters as they drove through the downtown and skirmishes broke out. Yeah, it was encountered, not entered, because, I know that there's a veiled threat out there that if you touch this car, I'll shove this car up your ass, but as far as I know, that's still not physically possible. And yes, now they're going after the politicians. I mean, nobody is safe, and Wheeler actually tried to stand down and protest with these people, and yet nobody is safe. They'll go after him just as fast, except for the fact that when they go after Wheeler, Wheeler calls up the police force and says, okay, now it's time to fucking stop this shit. Just like with Pelosi, rules for thee, but not for me. You guys have to deal with the destruction in the 6-block radius of Portland. But no, they're not going to come to my neighborhood. Fuck that, is the quote that's coming from Ted Wheeler. So think about that when you go to the ballot box up in November. Alright, I got one here from the Daily Wire. Let me close a couple of these here, just to catch up with some stuff. Speaking of violence, charges were dropped against a man at a Portland riot. He later stabbed multiple people to death, police say. From the Daily Wire News, a man accused of stabbing 2 people to death in Portland in June was previously arrested during a riot in downtown Portland a week prior to the killings. But the charges were dropped when Progressive District Attorney Mike Schmidt reportedly decided not to pursue charges. Cassie Leeton, 22, and Najaf Nate Hobbs, 39, were stabbed on June 16th near Northeast David Street. Police arrested Philip Lawrence Nelson. 2 days later, Coin News reported Tuesday he faces 2 murder charges and is being held without bail. Just days before he allegedly killed Leeton and Hobbs, though, Nelson was taken into custody. At a protest in downtown Portland, court records show he was arrested on charges of interfering with a peace officer. Those charges were dismissed the next day. Journalist Andy Ngo noted that the charges from the violent Antifa protest were dropped because of the case wasn't pursued by the DA. The report from the local CBS affiliate says that investigators believe that the two victims were murdered as a part of a dispute they had with Nelson over a renting issue. Leighton and Hobbs' roommate told police that they were originally renting the unit in a fourplex from Nelson, who claimed to be the owner of the building, according to court records. The outlet reports when three roommates found out Nelson was actually just squatting there, they changed the locks to their unit, angering Nelson, records state. Now see, had they actually pursued the charges and gone through with it, he wouldn't have had to squat in an apartment. He could have just got 3 squares from the state of Oregon. See, these people don't think this through. And now people are dead because of it. Sheriffs in Oregon have cited that fact that so many rioters in Portland have had their criminal charges dropped as the reason. They will not be sending any deputies to the city to quell the nightly violence, as part of a plan put together by the state's governor. So, yeah, I wouldn't either. And I mentioned this yesterday when Wheeler was talking about and Kate Brown were talking about putting sheriffs into Portland from surrounding communities. I would have said hell no. The sheriffs are saying hell no. And that's probably for a good reason. That's probably for a great reason, because they can't guarantee the safety of their officers in that city. So, yeah, absolutely. And yes, 2 people didn't have to die, but those charges were dropped. Let's keep going here. From the other side of the country, victim of brick assault in South Baltimore, identified by police days after the incident from Philip Jackson. A man who was assaulted or attacked with a brick in South Baltimore has been identified by police on Tuesday, police spokesperson Donnie Moses confirmed to the Baltimore Sun. The man received minor injuries and did not seek medical attention. Baltimore police are not releasing the victim's name or age, being that he's not deceased, Moses said. Police are still investigating the incident captured in a video that went viral on social media, showing the man getting hit in the back of the head with a brick. As of now, no suspect has been identified, Moses said. Around 6:40 p.m. Sunday, police responded with backup unit to the 100 block of Hamburg St. Street in the Sharp Leadenhall neighborhood for the report of an assault. When officers arrived, there was no victim on the scene, police said. Medics who also canvassed the scene did not locate a victim, according to an incident report. Officers later observed a pool of blood on a sidewalk in the area, according to the incident report. A witness who refused to give their name, address, told the police that the incident stemmed from a loud argument between 2 men. According to the report, one man began to walk away, and then another man picked up 2 bricks and struck him in the back of the head, the witness said. The attacker ran away, traveling northbound by foot towards the Sharp Leadenhall apartments, according to the incident report. A video of the confrontation surfaced on social media and spread widely. The video matches the details given in the incident report that was filed. City Councilman Eric Costello, who represents the area, strongly condemned the incident and asked people with video footage to come forward. It should go without saying that the complete depravity to human life illustrated in this video is disgusting and should be investigated and prosecuted to the full extent of the law, Costello wrote in a Facebook post on Monday. Well, unfortunately, that's not a new low for Baltimore. That's not a new low for anywhere. That is sadly just a new middle. So, unfortunately, that's what we see here. Can I show this video? I don't care. I'll get age restricted, but I don't care. Let's click the ears on and let's have a look at this.
Oh! Dang!
One more time.
Oh! Dang!
You know what the worst part of this whole thing is? Is that they had the opportunity to stop it. These people filming, they see somebody running up behind somebody with a brick, What do you think is about to happen? Do something, you fucking retards. Do something. Save a life. That guy could have died from that. Cell phones are going to ruin this world, I swear. Even if, like, with the live streaming thing that I did before. I mean, if I could have seen, or if I would have seen something go down, you guys would have seen the live stream end. Right then and there. Because I'd be stopping in and administering help to people. Instead of just filming people getting the shit beat out of them. My oath to humanity is greater than my oath to live streaming. I don't know what's wrong with some people. I really don't. Let's keep going. So I've got a tweet here that I wanted to read here that will lead us into the New York Times article. New York Times tweets as right-wing groups increasingly move to confront protesters in U.S. cities. Demonstrators are assessing how to keep themselves safe. So we read now from the New York Times, archived because I'm not going to give them money and subscribe to them. What do you think I am? A person who has money? As gun gets drawn at protest sites, demonstrators fear a volatile new phase. From Mike Baker, Julie Bozeman, and Richard A. Oppel Jr. For months, Reese Monson, who helps organize security for the hundreds of protesters who gather in downtown Portland, Oregon every night, has advised them to use shields made of plywood, pool noodles, and 55-gallon drums, tools to deflect the riot control measures used by police. That's part of the problem right there. Now, Mr. Monson, a leader in the city's Black Lives Matter movement, said that they were considering a new kind of shield when they go out to demonstrate against racial injustice, bulletproof vests. Whatever body armor you can find, we need that, Mr. Monson said. Whatever you can protect yourself with, we need that. Right now is the time of either life or death. For months, as protesters by Black Lives Matter and other groups have erupted across the country, the persistent confrontations have been largely between protesters and the police, with the conflict playing out in tear gas volleys and loud projectiles. But in recent days, the protests in Portland and Kenosha, Wisconsin have taken a more perilous turn. Right-wing activists have arrived, many carrying firearms, and they are bent on countering the racial justice protests with an opposing vision of America. Violent street clashes between the two sides have broken out over the past 2 weeks, leaving 3 people dead. The arrival of firearms, including some in the hands of left-wing protesters, has escalated political debate over policing into precarious new territory. President Trump, scheduled to visit Kenosha on Tuesday, warns that America's cities are out of control, while Portland's mayor blames the president for stoking the unrest. 3 months after the George Floyd was killed by the Minneapolis police, setting off a tumult of nationwide, 2 opposite movements are brawling in the streets, with no sign of letting up as the country begins the final stretch towards the November 3rd election. After the Trump administration's attempt at a law and order crackdown in Portland backfired in July, last month brought a fresh upheaval. The police in Kenosha shot a black man, Jacob Blake, in the back, fueling protests there and elsewhere, while right-wing groups in Portland come into the city to confront Black Lives Matter demonstrators. Last week in Kenosha, 17-year-old Kyle Rittenhouse of Illinois went to the scene of unrest there openly carrying a rifle and saying he'd come to protect businesses. Before the night was over, 2 people had been fatally shot, and Mr. Rittenhouse has now been charged with homicides. His lawyer said he acted in self-defense. So, yeah, there's a bunch of stuff going on here, and, yeah, you know that if you're going to start rioting out here, everything's going to escalate. And yes, I appreciate the idea that this guy is saying that he wants to see peaceful protests. So go on and bring your pool noodle, your plywood, and your drums to deflect the riot control measures. But in reality, the police have been pulled back. The governors have pulled the police back and allowed all of this to happen just to make sure that the governor's mansions and the mayoral mansions are protected, while not touching anything else, or while letting everything else burn around. At some point, everything was going to escalate. The thing with Rittenhouse, people are just pissed that a kid shot back. Instead of bending over and taking it like every other protest has been. Like every other riot has been across this country. Everybody just bent over and took it. And now people are coming in and trying to fight back, trying to save some of their cities, trying to protect the livelihoods of people who can't depend on the state to protect them. That's what we had the Second Amendment for, to protect ourselves in situations like this. And once again, these people are just pissed that people are shooting back, that people are taking the initiative, that people are doing what the governments have failed to do. I don't condone the violence, but I know why they're doing it, and I understand why they're doing it. Absolutely. I don't condone a business owner asking a 17-year-old to hold a rifle and protect a car dealer, but I understand why he did it. And the outcome would have been the same if that had been an adult. It's just now they have a boogeyman to lay all of this on. When the riots break out, when the BLM comes to your city, and there's a reason that they're doing this in mostly left-wing cities as well, because they expected that nobody would ever come in and try to do this in these cities, that nobody would ever try and do something in Kenosha and Portland, that they would just have free reign forever. And by and large, the people want to see law and order. They want to see people protected. There's a reason they don't come into my little town here in Wisconsin, that they stay in Kenosha or Madison or Milwaukee. That they don't try and do this in Dallas or Houston. Well, maybe Houston they could get away with it, but they don't try and do this in San Antonio or any number of small towns across rural areas. There's a reason that they don't do it like that. So that's what we see up off of this. Here, the New York Times, of course, trying to gaslight you as hard as they can. Let's keep going here from the Daily Wire. Chicago faces record $1.2 billion budget shortfall following catastrophic economic collapse, riots, and violence. From Emily Zanotti. Chicago's Mayor Lori Lightfoot announced Tuesday that the city is facing a historic $1.2 billion budget shortfall for the fiscal year 2021 following what the mayor called a catastrophic economic collapse caused by the coronavirus pandemic and widespread rioting and looting that did an estimated $60 million in physical damage to the city's downtown and untold damage to its tourism industry. Saying Chicago faces a crisis unlike anything we've experienced in our lifetimes, Mayor Lori Lightfoot painted a gray financial picture for the city on Monday, detailing a projected $1.2 billion budget shortfall in the 2021 fiscal year, Chicago's public broadcasting station, WTTW, reported. On top of that colossal shortfall, the city's financial picture was worsened significantly during the past 3 months because of an economic catastrophe caused by the coronavirus pandemic. Lightfoot said, according to the outlet, the city's budget for the current fiscal year is now $779 million in the red, she said. Lightfoot added that all options are on the table, though she refused to get into specifics. In the past, the city has proposed a computer lease tax, a streaming services tax, a higher restaurant and entertainment tax, as stopgap measures for budget shortfalls. This shortfall, although is so unprecedented, the city is likely to consider more extreme measures, like a property tax hike. We'll tax and tax and tax some more. Hey, we'll maybe tax the lakeshore. All they're going to do, if they're going to continue to tax and tax and tax like this, and we saw this last week, I read the article on Friday of people that are just getting up and leaving the city because there's so many taxes and everything's getting hiked up at this point. You're just going to drive the productive people up out of the city. Now, keep in mind, of course, they brought up a good point in the Daily Wire article here. You can't go and do tourism in Chicago, which is one of their major business ventures. One of the major things that they do, one of the biggest sources of revenue for the city, is people who come in, sit down and look at the lakefront, or look at the Shedd Aquarium, or the museums, or the Prohibition Museum, or the tolls. Even the tolls coming in from out of state to come in and see all this stuff. And that's all gone because nobody wants to be down there because they're tearing that city apart. They think that if they go stay at one of these fancy hotels, their BMW will be destroyed and they'll get raped in the hotel room. I wouldn't go to Chicago. And it's local for me, and I still won't go to Chicago. Fuck that. Fuck that. And a lot of this is bringing this on yourself. H1N1 did not have this kind of reaction, but COVID-19 has. That is something that we need to consider. Now we have major cities with flight going on in them. And of course, the anti-gentrification people are happy because, hey, we're chasing the white people out and we own this city now. But in reality, in all of this, you can't form the services. And like fucking go run to Springfield and say, please, please give me money. And I don't know if Springfield's actually going to be willing to do so. So, man, oh man, oh man. This is just, and Portland's going to be the same way. Seattle's going to be the same way. Los Angeles is going to be the same way. You just watch. We're going to see more of this come across the country. Rural areas, not so much, but in these big cities, we're going to see a lot more of this. All right, let's keep going. Finally, the allergy pill's starting to kick in, and I can breathe. From Fox News, NPR slammed over a tweet that Trump claimed without evidence that the Kenosha gunman acted in self-defense. From Sam Dorman, this is the article that we read from NPR yesterday. NPR was strongly criticized Tuesday after it claimed that President Trump had no evidence that Kyle Rittenhouse, the 17-year-old who shot 3 protesters in Kenosha last week, acted out of self-defense. You saw the same tape I saw, Trump said during a White House press briefing on Monday. He was trying to get away from them, I guess, it looks like, and he fell, and then they very violently attacked him. The worst violence. And it was something that we're looking into right now, and it's under investigation. But I guess he was in very big trouble. He probably would have been killed, but it's under investigation. NPR responded on Tuesday by tweeting President Trump declined to condemn the actions of a suspected 17-year-old shooter of 3 protesters against police brutality in Kenosha, claiming, without evidence, that it appeared the gunman was acting in self-defense. I don't know. We saw the video. I've had 2 morning shows age-restricted because of the video. We watched the video together. What do you guys think? What do you think? Was it self-defense? Or did he go out and kill people in cold blood execution style? And there are still people on Twitter that are trying to forward that narrative too, by the way. Just keep that in mind as we go forward. So we're not going to spend a lot of time on that one because we've talked about it already. I just wanted to bring that one up and point it out here. I've got one from Axios. I think that they're confessing that there's going to be voter fraud and some fucky stuff coming up off of this here. Exclusive, Dem Group warns of apparent Trump election day landslide from Margaret Tlaib. A top Democratic data and analytics firm told Axios on HBO it's highly likely that President Trump will appear to have won, potentially in a landslide on election night, even if he ultimately loses, when all the votes are counted. Way more Democrats will vote absentee, not vote by mail, absentee, than Republicans due to fears of the coronavirus. And it will take days, if not weeks, to tally these. This means that Trump, thanks to Republicans doing almost all of their voting in person, could hold big electoral college and popular vote leads on election night. Imagine America with its polarization and misinformation if the vote tally swings wildly towards Biden and Trump loses days later. It's going to take more than days, folks, as the mail ballots are counted. This is what the group Hawkfish, which is funded by Michael Bloomberg and does work for the Democratic National Committee and pro-Biden super PACs, is warning is a very real, if not foreordained outcome. Hawkfish CEO Josh Mendelson calls the scenario a red mirage. We're sounding an alarm and saying that this is a very real possibility that the data is going to show on election night an incredible victory for Donald Trump. He said, when every legitimate vote is tallied, and when we get to that final day, which will be some days after Election Day, it will in fact show that what happened on election night was exactly that, a mirage, Mendelsohn said. It looked like Donald Trump was in the lead, and he fundamentally was not when every ballot gets counted. Yeah, in all honesty, and that's what we're going to see up off of this here. I mean, Chicago is still not done counting their primary votes. Milwaukee is still not done counting their primary votes. We're going into the general, and Milwaukee is not done counting their primary votes. I believe at which point they just called it and said the hell with it. This election is going to be a mess. This election is going to be a fuck story of all fuck stories. And I can't even begin to imagine what this is going to be. And of course, Bloomberg is coming out and saying this particular modeling scenario portrays Biden as ultimately winning a massive victory, 334 to 204. Under one of the group's modeling scenarios, Trump could hold a projected lead of 408 to 130 electoral votes on election night if only 15% of the vote by mail ballots have been counted. I don't trust any of this, and there's a reason that I don't trust any of this. In 2018, when Tony Evers ran against Scott Walker, Tony Evers and Scott Walker ran within a half a point of each other all night, throughout the day, from the time they closed the polls at 8 o'clock on through the rest of the night. And I watched it through the entire night as they counted. And the tally never got within 1% of each other. Which 1% would be the automatic recount. Evers was ahead by 0.7%, and then Walker was ahead by 0.7%. And they just kept flip-flopping back and forth throughout the night. Then, at the very last second, at 2 o'clock in the morning, a mysterious box of ballots with a gluing error showed up in Milwaukee. 3,000 ballots showed up in Milwaukee with a gluing error on them. And guess what? Every last one of them went for Evers. And it was just enough to bring the margin up to 1.1%. Just outside of the automatic recount. And then between Justice Dan Kelly and new Justice, I can't even think of that woman's name right now. Our new justice coming in Wisconsin, the progressive out of Madison that they wanted. I can't think of the woman's name. But that was another case of the same thing. They ran a tight race throughout the night. And then all of a sudden, last second, oh, hey, look, we found this box of ballots. And we're going to be seeing this for days and days after the election. Hey, look at this mysterious box of ballots we just found. In a trunk, in an airport somewhere. So, and this is going to get contested over and over again. We might not know what happens by Inauguration Day. We might not know what happens by Christmas, by Inauguration Day, by Valentine's Day. We might not know who wins. They're going to keep finding ballots mysteriously. So that's what we're going to see up off of this here. So keep an eye on this as we go along. And as this goes further and further. All right. From Reuters, Pelosi says serious differences between Democrats, White House on coronavirus aid. No author given because it's Reuters and they never give the author. U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said after a phone call with Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin on Tuesday that serious differences remain between Democrats and the White House over coronavirus relief legislation. Sadly, this phone call made clear that Democrats and the White House continue to have serious differences understanding the gravity of the situation that America's working families are facing, Pelosi said in a statement. No negotiations on another round of coronavirus aid have taken place since early August when talks collapsed as congressional Democrats and Republican Trump administration could not bridge a gap of more than $1 trillion between their proposed relief packages for small businesses, state and local governments, school districts, and healthcare providers. In our conversation, I reiterated the hope that Republicans will come to the table and work with Democrats to save the lives and livelihoods of the American people, Pelosi said. In mid-May, House Democrats approved a fifth coronavirus response bill this year, totaling more than $3 trillion. Months later, Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell responded with a $1 trillion bill that the Senate had not voted upon. So, no, they're still not going to put any relief out, but, people are forgetting about the coronavirus. We have riots to pay attention to at this point, so that's out of the news at this point. Let's pay attention to the bouncing ball here, and then, all of a sudden, we have a protest and a super spreader event. Hey, look at all those new cases. Cases. So, for God's sakes, it's time. Just let everybody go back to work. But they can't do that because it's not election day yet. All right, let's keep going here. I've got a tweet here and a video to come with the tweet. Melania and the White House accused me of criminal activity and publicly shamed and fired me and made me their scapegoat at that moment in time. That's what I pressed record. Stephanie Winston Wolkoff on whether she has recordings of the quotes in her new book. So once again, somebody that's out trying to sell a book that apparently has some recordings of Melania Trump decided to come out to Meta and start talking. So let's hear what she had to say.
Reporting around your book that says that part of the way that you can back up some of these verbatim quotes and some of these extensive, detailed anecdotes is that you do have some recordings of some of these conversations. Can you comment on that at all?
So, Rachel, I haven't commented on the past. And one of the reasons why I'm going to share this with you this evening is because I've been accused of taping my friend, as the White House said, and how horrible of a human being I am for doing that. And they're right. If she was my friend, it would be horrible. But Melania and the White House had accused me of criminal activity, had publicly shamed and fired me, and made me their scapegoat. At that moment in time, that's when I pressed record. She was no longer my friend, and she was willing to let them take me down. And she told me herself, this is the way it has to be. She was advised by the attorneys at the White House that there was no other choice because there was a possible investigation into the Presidential Inauguration Committee. And that's not how you treat a friend. So I was going to do anything in my power to make sure that I was protected. And at first, I really did think maybe she would come to my aid. Maybe she would tell the truth. She turned her back. She did. She pulled like a deck of cards, and I was shocked when she did it.
Are you saying, Ms. Wolkoff, that at that point you decided, in order to protect yourself, that you would make recordings of some of your conversations with the First Lady, or that you did?
I did, Rachel. I did. And again, to have to admit that it is disgraceful in any other context. But who would believe any of this otherwise? You can't make this up. But
all right, so that's going on with there. Of course, we know at this point that Ms. Wolkoff has a new book coming out, and she needs to come out and do something here to jump on the Orange Man train. She hasn't released the tapes yet at this point, so I have no idea. The tapes might exist. They absolutely might, but I have no reason to believe that they do because, honestly, with everything else that's been going on in this country for the last 3 years, it's usually a pretty good indicator when bullshit has been had and when somebody's just trying to come out and sell a book. Because they can jump on the train of, I have dirt on the Orange Man. Buy my book. I don't believe in doing this out the regular way. Let's just sell that and buy my book, and then you can see what's inside. No. Anybody who has had anything legitimate on the president has pulled it out right away. And that's how I know what's real and what's fake. And I could be wrong, that the tapes could come out and there could be some real stuff in there. But given the fact that the tapes aren't released, I'm going to call bullshit on this one. Let's keep going here from Fox News. Omar Tlaib called on MSNBC host Joy Reid to apologize after comments deemed Islamophobic. From Sam Dorman. They're eating their own, folks. Let's get the live chat back up here for you guys. Representatives Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib have called on MSNBC anchor Joy Reid to apologize after she suggested Monday night that President Trump has radicalized his supporters in the same way that Muslims act. Oh yeah, that was probably a problem to say. Leaders, let's say in the Muslim world, talk a lot of violent talk, encourage their supporters to be willing to commit violence, including their own bodies, in order to win against whoever they decide is the enemy, Reid said on her new show, The Readout. Yeah, you probably shouldn't have said that. Probably shouldn't have said it that way. We in the U.S. media describe that as they're radicalizing these people, particularly when they're radicalizing young people. That's how the way many Muslims act. When you see what Donald Trump is doing, is that any different from what we describe as radicalizing people? Her comments came in response to President Trump retweeting a video of a pro-Trump caravan, which included a man who shot paintballs at protesters. Non-lethal paintballs, I might add. Omar tweeted that Reid's remarks constituted casual Islamophobia and were hurtful and dangerous. Words matter, Tlaib chimed in, and these words feed into the harmful anti-Muslim rhetoric and actions that we continue to see in this country. It is even more painful to hear it from someone I admire. We deserve an apology. Yes, good. Good, eat your own. Yes. She spent much of the show discussing racism. However, Reid failed to acknowledge the harm she caused, did not apologize for stereotyping Muslims as violent radicals, and failed to address her history of anti-Muslim comments. The group said in a statement, by refusing to apologize and disavow her anti-Muslim comments, Reid is continuing to put Muslims in danger. Harambe, what the hell did you do to this universe? I never thought that I would see this report. My God, it's hilarious though. It is amazing. So, oh, the stupidity of it all. The stupidity of everything. I can't even believe any of this anymore. Alright, dudes, we gotta keep going. Just a few more to get to. We're over the hour mark already. And that's partially because I wasted some time without a microphone on. Thank you once again, Dabo, for pointing that out to me off in the beginning. I have got one here from the Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project, which is Green Check verified, by the way. U.S. court approves sex trafficking lawsuits against Facebook. A court in Texas has dismissed Facebook's appeal to halt 3 separate lawsuits from underage survivors of sexual exploitation who say the company is enabling sex trafficking. Houston's 14th Court of Appeals on Tuesday rejected a motion by the social media platform requesting immunity from the claims brought by 3 unidentified plaintiffs against Facebook and Instagram in 2018 and 2019. According to the Houston Chronicle, the girls were 13, 14, and 16 years old when they were recruited by pimps through the company's apps. The plaintiffs are seeking to hold Facebook liable for the damages resulting from their contact with the predators on social media platforms, following which they say were later trafficked and forced into sexual exploitation. Facebook sought protection from the victims' claims by appealing to the Communications Decency Act introduced in 1996 to regulate indecent material online with additional provisions, partly insulating tech companies from liability for the actions of the people who use their platforms. I've got a couple things to say about this. First and foremost, before Facebook is held liable for all of this, the pimps need to go down. Facebook needs to go through their terms of service and look a little bit closer on what's going on at their platform. But they are protected to an extent by 230. But where the fuck were the parents in all of this? Where are the parents? That's the first thing that needs to be figured out in all of this, is where the hell are the parents? Do a little bit of parenting every once in a while, and you'll see some of this shit slow down. And yes, it's tragic that the parents lose their children to go into the sex trafficking like this, but there are steps that you can take before it gets to this point. There are a whole lot of people that are in the wrong with this. So, we will see what comes out of this. I feel, because no American outlet has put this out here, but we'll see what comes up off of this. But yeah, that's my big question: is where the hell were the parents on all of this? All right, let's keep going here from the Daily Wire. California State Senate passes bill that could alter sex offender registration for gay sex with minors, from John Brown. The California State Senate passed a controversial reform to its sex offender registry on Monday that would allow a young adult who has gay sex with a minor to escape registering in some cases, based on the judge's discretion. SB 145 finally passed the 40-member state Senate by a vote of 23 to 10, after first being introduced by California State Senator Scott Wiener in 2019, according to the San Francisco Chronicle. Wiener argued that the current law discriminates against LGBTQ Q plus IARMWG, I don't know what the fuck is all in there. Because, as the Chronicle explained, under current law, a judge can decide whether to place a man who has vaginal intercourse with an underage teenage girl on the sex offender registry based on the facts of the case, but if anal or oral sex or vaginal penetration with anything other than the penis is involved, the adult must register as a sex offender. Under SB 145, if a young adult has gay sex with a minor less than 10 years younger, a judge will have the discretion whether to place the individual on the sex offender registry list. This eliminates discrimination against LGBTQ youth in our criminal justice system, Wiener said. The bill's passage was a victory for Wiener, who had been trying in recent weeks to salvage it before the end of the legislative session, as the Daily Wire reported. 10 years, you say, for people who can be tried as an adult, which I believe is 17 in California. Do the math. This has the potential to go wrong in all sorts of different, horrible ways. This has horrible repercussions and a lot of other things that could come off of this. I have no words to say to this. This is, I could see 3 years on judicial discretion. I could see 3. And honestly, on the female side, the male to female side, I think we need to actually come back and rein that one in here as well and figure out what's going on there and why that's such a broad difference and why there's so much judicial discretion for that. But that's not the thing that's at play at this point. That is, we're looking right now at the fact that 10 years in California. No. No. Can we just push that state off into the Pacific Ocean yet at this point? Because we got to be getting close. I don't know. Let's keep going here. I got 2 more tweets and 1 more article, and then we'll do a thing that I'm thankful for. And the first tweet that I have is another cringe fest video between Harris and Biden. So let's hear what what those two have to say. We're over the hour mark. I'm starting to trip over my words here.
They have this, and a lot of their plans got put on hold. They're graduating from school without graduations. They're not having their, I know it sounds silly, but it matters, their proms, their graduation ceremonies. But more importantly, the jobs they thought they were going to go to, that they've spent all this time and money to get to. I mean, think of the people, all the debt that exists, that people borrowed to get to and through school.
That's right.
I don't think any family that has an income less than $125,000 should have to pay for a 4-year public state college education and or for community college.
You have that also in our plan for HBCUs.
Yes, well, we're going to give
Yes.
$70 billion to HBCUs.
That's right.
But people, you went to one of the
I am a
greatest.
very proud graduate of an HBCU,
That's
Howard
true.
University.
What?
And but we have so many incredible HBCUs. One of the things about the plan also is it really is about supporting education after high school, and then the individual can decide what that education will
That's
be.
right.
And for some, it'll be a four-year college. For some, it'll be a community college. For some, it'll be
An apprentice program.
Right,
Yeah.
and that's the great thing. It's
Yep.
about education after high school, and then all of those tracks being available based on what a student wants to do, but supporting that.
Right now, 6 out of 10 jobs in America require more than a high school degree.
Right.
Jill has a great expression. Any country that out-educates us is going to outcompete us.
That's right.
This is about the future. This is the United States of America. Anytime we've ever set our mind to something, we've never failed as long as we've done it together.
That's
And
right.
this constant effort to split us just seems to me to be so counterproductive
That's right.
for us. Everybody thinks that we've led the world because we're the most powerful nation in the world. And it's true, we are. But we've not led by the example of our power. It's been the power of our example.
Yes.
I really believe that the vast majority of the American people are truly decent.
Yes.
I think they're angry right now. I think they're fed up. I think they're looking for some authenticity and some honesty.
We're better than this.
All right, so I've had enough of listening to that there. I know we got almost to the end, but I can't listen to those two talk anymore. And that is a big thing that goes along with this. And where does the money come from to do this, to educate this as well? It comes from you and me. I mean, you're going to pay for it's not free college. You're going to pay for it out of taxes, just like everything else out of this. And that's going to extend to the rich as well. They're going to have the opportunity to come in to be part of some of these state schools. Spend more money is all that Kamala and Joe have at this point. And once again, devaluing the level of education from 12th grade to 16th grade. Delaying adulthood until age 23. Over and over and over again. But yet, let's let 14-year-olds vote because we need to do that. In reality, I admire people who went out and got the college degree. I know that there are companies out there, and I've told this story numerous times, when I went over to the accounting firm to do a scene check, to do a scouting exploration, in order to more accurately describe a boardroom in a company that I was going to use in a scene for a novel. I asked what it would take for me to get in there, knowing that I can do most addition and subtraction and multiplication in my head. I said, hey, you know what? With what I do for work, I deal with numbers all the time and accounting all the time. I feel like you guys pay more than where I work right now, so what would it take for me to come in and work for you guys here? And she said, well, you need to have a college degree. And I said, oh, and what? She said, oh, it doesn't matter. You just need to have a bachelor's degree. Nothing about accounting at all. They will train you, but you need to have that piece of paper. We're in a point right now, and I've brought this up numerous times, where you can get any piece of information in the world in your pocket at a second's notice. Any piece of information. You can watch a YouTube video on how to make something, how to build something, how to do an accounting spreadsheet. There's a YouTube video for that. How to do advanced multiplication, how to do algebra 2, how to build a rocket. Well, the FBI censors a few of those. How to make your own gunpowder. Anything that you could possibly do in this world. And I'm just thinking on a more practical level, on a more manufacturing level. But I mean, there's other stuff out there. People disseminate information freely. You can get law notes from Cornell Law, right from Cornell Law School. You can get law notes off there. Any information in the world that you want, you can have at a moment's notice right now. A college is nothing but the indoctrination at this point. You can figure it out without going to college. So this is a point for them to get you in there, give you something for free to try and win your debt. At a point where people are drowning in student debt, they're trying to capitalize on that, on the situation that they created for the millennials. They're trying to capitalize on it at this point, and I don't think any of it's right. All right. Let's grab one here from ABC Australia. Ballarat woman live streams arrest for allegedly inciting coronavirus lockdown protest on Facebook. A woman's arrest for allegedly inciting an anti-lockdown protest in a regional Victoria has gone viral after it was live streamed on Facebook. The 28-year-old woman started filming when police arrived at her house in Ballarat, west of Melbourne, on Wednesday afternoon. In the video, she asked for a search warrant, which the police hand over. "You're under arrest in relation to incitement," an officer says. The woman asked her partner to keep filming as police handcuff her. "Excuse me, what on earth?" she asks. In the video, an officer tells the woman her arrest was in relation to a social media post allegedly encouraging people to attend a protest in Ballarat against COVID-19 restrictions. The woman tells police she's pregnant and has an ultrasound appointment in an hour's time. She offers to delete the post and questions the need to arrest her in front of her 2 children. But Victoria police confirmed the woman was taken into custody and charged with incitement. A mobile device was also seized from a minor's rest address, police said. The woman was later released on bail and is due to appear in the Ballarat Magistrates Court in January, which is not going to look very favorable on her, I am sorry to say. So, yes, this is, and I mean, I saw over in the live chat earlier, we had a couple people in from over across the pond at some point. I know Blip was over there from over in the UK. I saw another Twitch user that I wasn't sure where he was from. He just said across the Atlantic. So probably over in that Western Europe area as well. I saw a couple people in there, and yeah, that's something that we have to look at here, is the fact that you can go into Australia, the UK, and get arrested for your freedom of speech over there because they don't have protection. Even in Canada, they don't have protections for this. Even under Section 230, you can't be protected for the things that you say, especially if they're going out against the government. And here, in the US, you have that protection. And of course, the Australians wanted to gaslight and say, "Oh, well, I can go to the United States then and die from COVID because everybody over there has COVID-19. No, we really don't. And even if we did, most of us are asymptomatic. And our death rate, if what the CDC has come out and said, which is only useful when it advances their narrative, is only 9,000 people. So, I told you to question the numbers right from the beginning. And a lot of you have questioned the numbers right from the beginning. I always say when I see 185,000 people, citation needed. 9,000 direct coronavirus deaths across a 330 million person country. But yes, I am very glad to live here. That's not the thing I'm thankful for today. But I'm very glad to live here, where they would come in to do this in my home, and I could laugh in their face and tell them to get the fuck back out. And then have my lawyer file an injunction against the County of Rock for violating the First Amendment. I love that. Alright, last one here is a tweet that I wanted to share with you. Just on a little bit of a lighter note, even though it still sucks anyway. But you knew that shit like this was going to happen, especially when you started conducting shit back online. How's online school going in my city? Oh, kind of like this. Yes, this is real. This is my friend. Yes, this is my son's school district. Hey, Gavin Newsom, want to open up now or expose kids to porn? You happy now? This is from Pepper Patriot over on Twitter. The original poster's name was blanked out off of this, but it says, "Ugh, my son's 7th grade class was hacked by someone who decided to say a bunch of colorful language and then exposing himself to the Google Meet class. So ready for 2020 to be over." So yeah, a dude came into the Google meeting, because they weren't using Zoom for whatever reason. They were using Google Meeting for this. He came into the Google meeting, and he pulled his junk out. Who could have seen that coming? There's not enough security for anything, and no matter how well school IP departments do, in trying to protect kids from this, they can't do everything. And kids can still get around it, get around the net nanny, look at porn in a computer lab, or do fun stuff on their phones, on the school's Wi-Fi. There's so many other things that can be done with this. And yes, now this happens as well. This is great. And of course, we just saw the law that California passed out that said, oh, well, no, we're gonna make kitty diddling legal, as long as the judge makes a discretionary decision, which isn't going to be politically motivated at all, not in any of this here. And we're not going to call him a fascist or a gay hater if he doesn't rule in our direction. There's so many problems with this, but I thought that you guys would like to see what's happening out in California and what could happen if we continue to do all this remote learning. All right, and that's going to be it for the news today. And the last thing that I do on Wednesday is something that I'm thankful for. So I'm looking back. I'm looking at how quickly everything happened in Kenosha. Within a couple hours, they were rioting. They were burning businesses. Another day later, a fatal shooting. 2 fatal shootings. Still contested whether or not they were self-defense, which I do still believe that they were, but that is still contested and for a jury of 12 to decide at this point. Not those of us sitting out on the internet. More businesses burned, the parole office burned. And then more federal troops coming in. I hate the fact that rioters burned down the city of Kenosha. I absolutely hate that fact. I really do. It's disgusting to me. But I'm thankful that this didn't turn into a Chaz or a Chop or Portland, where we went through this for 90 days straight. I'm thankful for the fact that within a couple of days, everything fizzled out. People can now go down to the lakefront again to pray for the rebuilding of the city. I'm still trying to work together and find a way to get a big live stream going to get some money together to help them rebuild off of this. But I'm really thankful that it slowed down as quick as it did. That people are safe, that I don't have to pace the floor and wonder if I have to make a sudden trip to go and pull my godmother out, to pull my uncle and his family out. That I can sit here and focus on the news and focus on what comes next at this point. I'm thankful for all of that right now. And I'm also thankful for everybody who sent their words of condolences out to me over everything that I saw there. This tore me apart when I saw all of this in Kenosha, and I'm thankful that it's for the most part over at this point. And we can focus on everything else that we have to do now before November. So, thank you all. We will be back here tomorrow for more Contemporary. Hopefully, because we've got 2 Freedom Scoop shows going on tonight, I'm not going to do gaming tonight either. Hopefully, I'll get kicked out of work early tomorrow because of how late I stayed yesterday. And we'll do some gaming tomorrow night. That'll be fun. I think that'll be great. So hopefully we'll see you there. Otherwise, we will see you back here tomorrow with more Contemporary. Until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary.